What if I told you you don't actually have abandonment issues? That over time you just learned how to abandon yourself? See, when I've come to this realization, that's when it started to make a massive change inside my life and a huge impact in my life. For those of you who have bought in Volume 1, you slowly start to go down that journey of the beginning of my life into foster care and also of both of my parents actually giving me up. And so, yes, for a very long time, I have dealt with abandonment issues, and that stems from obviously my parents giving me up and everything. But what people mainly start to forget is that level of any kind of trauma, it follows you later on in your life. And what I've started to learn and started to uncover and started to become incredibly self-aware is it's not actually that you have abandonment issues. What it ultimately comes down to is you actually start to abandon yourself. See, for me, this was a very hard pill that I had to swallow. How I would abandon myself is it was heavy in relationships. I've always struggled in relationships, and simply because I was never present in the moment. And how I abandoned myself was if any time any of the women that I've dated, if they needed anything, I was there. It didn't matter what time, 24/7. I also had one relationship where it was a long distance relationship, and on a drop of a dime, I would travel over an hour away just to be by her side. Anything that she wanted, needed, even on days where she may have felt depressed, I was there. I went there just to hold her or do whatever. I overgave in that aspect. When problems started to come, even in her life, that had nothing to do with me, I would feel like I had to solve every single problem for her. I never gave her the chance to actually even practice trying to overcome certain obstacles in my life. It was almost as if I took the burden of her life and put it on my shoulders. And I did that with everybody. And it starts to hit you really hard because when you start to, like for me, like I could go almost a decade of carrying people's burdens on top of my own stuff. So not only would I be dealing with my own life issues, work, children, bills, house expenses, cars, anything that went wrong, but then also I would take their problems as mine as well too, and I would try to solve their problems. And I could hold both responsibilities for just about under a decade. It was usually about 7, 8 years that eventually I started to burn out. And so when you start to burn out, you start to feel a lack in your relationship. You start to feel disconnected. I know for me, how it played out in my life when I started to become burnt out and slightly disconnected from the relationship, is I would sit there and I would go seeking like that level of reassurance from her. Wanting her to basically sit with me in my darkness. And how I would frame it is a lot of the times when I go through that, I know when I'm going through it, so I know what I need, and what I need is, I need the woods. That's my biggest thing, is I need woods. I need utter silence. I need to hear and feel nature around me. And I need a very quiet space for me to just let my thoughts go. And the hardest pill that I had to swallow was that, like, I was always alone doing that by myself. And for, every time that I felt burnt out, I wanted somebody there for me. See, and what ends up happening is because you abandon yourself, you never actually give that person a chance to show them who they actually truly are. It's almost like you create this scenario in your head, and you just dive full in. One of my ex-wives, she used to say, you're either 100% in it or you're 100% not in it. And when you deal with relationships, like that's probably one of the most unhealthiest levels that you could possibly do. Like, there are days that you're only going to be able to be 10% in, and the other person may have to carry the load. Then there may be days that you are 100% in and not. But for me, I was always 100% in. And that's how I would burn myself out. And so then when I'm burnt out and I'm looking for these level of reassurance, and I'm asking, my partners to do the things that I love to do, that I know that I need to help me feel grounded. And obviously never being present in the moment, and them not being able to do those things and drop in on a dime and do that for me like I did that for them, it starts to hurt you even more on a deeper level, because now you start to feel incredibly disconnected from your relationship. You start to feel like they don't love you. You may start to feel like you're not chosen, like they're willing to choose everyone else but you and put everyone else first but you. And also, in a sense, you may feel like you're just barely asking for like the bare minimum in a relationship. But see, that's where you start to go wrong, because now you're making it all about them. I know for me, especially when it came to abandonment issues, because I've struggled with that for a very long time, is also when you leave those relationships, whether you subconsciously are aware of it or not, majority of the time, and I know that I can speak for myself with 100% certainty, that in my past, I would make them feel exactly how I felt. And that right there is where your toxicity starts to bleed off on people. And you have to become self-aware that they're not actually abandoning you. It's actually you are abandoning yourself. You're abandoning your values, your beliefs, your standards, your ability to stay present even in a relationship or even in the present moment. And how you start to notice this first, and these little things will actually start to click in with you. If you hear people say, for one, that they have abandonment issues, if they openly admit that, then that should be something that creates a level of alertness in your eyes, and watch how they react. What you'll also hear a lot too, which I have heard, is people always leave me. Or you may hear certain people say, I get attached too easily. For myself, and I don't want to generalize this, but for myself, when I have gone to date certain women, some certain women would always say, no one ever stays. And that right there is a level that it instantly should start to alert you that they're going to try to abandon themselves to put themselves more into that relationship. And that's when, over years, they're going to start to build a level of resentment towards you, just like I've done towards other people. But the thing is once you actually start to become aware of this, and you actually start to focus on like your values, on the direction that you're moving in life, you also start to notice that certain people will come into your life to help you, either by teaching you or just being by your side and supporting you. Because the moment that you actually start to learn how to stop abandoning yourself is where everything starts to have a lot more clarity wrapped around it. It starts to change the way that you love people in relationships or even friendships or anything like that. And it's also the way that you start to choose certain people to be with or be in your life. It also gives you better tools and better recognition on the way you start to handle certain things, especially if you come to the conclusion that you have to walk away from somebody. You don't do it in a toxic way for you to bleed off on them and for them to feel the same level of abandonment that you faced. But most importantly, it helps the way that you start showing up for yourself. See, for myself, like, I work a lot. I have a full-time job. I run 3 states. I go to school full-time. I'm starting this YouTube channel. I have written a book. I am starting a second book. I have 2 daughters. I have my Siberian Husky. And how I start to show up for myself is I delegate certain days for classes. Obviously, around the construct of my job as well too. But there are certain hours and certain days for my job. I make it a point that I personally need, nature walks. I need to be in the woods and hitting the trails. So there are a couple times a day where me and my dog, where I will let him run free and we are in the woods for a while. But then also when I come home, there's time for me to spend time with my daughters when they're home or on the weekends. And then there are times that, I start to figure out things that I would like to talk about, and I start making little bullet points and filming. And then there are times that I give myself to write books, and this is what I mean by, like, you can start to handle more levels of responsibility the more that you start actually showing up for yourself and stop abandoning yourself. So with this all being said, I would like to ask you guys something, is where in your life do you feel like you're still abandoning yourself? Is it maybe just to try to keep someone else in your life? I am hoping that a part of this video resonated with you guys. And if you guys would like to understand a little bit more on a deeper level of where everything in my life has come from and the things that you can also start to notice in your life, I would like you guys to check out my book called A Child Called Home. It's actually volume 1. It's the beginning journey of it, and there's many different volumes that will be coming out. My book is available on Amazon. It's available on Barnes & Noble. You can buy it on Kindle, Google Play, Apple Books. It's also on ReaderHouse.com as well too. And there's a code FFSave10 on ReaderHouse, and that actually gives you 10% off of your entire order. That's it. You know, honestly, thank you. I greatly appreciate all you guys for being here, and I'm hoping that you guys would like to have more real conversations like this. And I'm hoping that you guys like, share, and subscribe, because here on Spill the Tea, this is the things that we talk about, things that usually people keep inside themselves. So I hope to see you guys next one. Bye.